Anyone else remember when to do something as simple as open Netflix, we had to get a streaming disc mailed to our house, pop them in the console like a video game, and then finally we'd be able to watch Netflix? No? Well, I do. This is back when Netflix used to mainly be a DVD rental service, and it's come a long way. In fact, the entire industry has. We went from one single subscription service to just way too many to count. So the question needs to be asked, how did we get here? It started back in 1996. Netflix hasn't been founded, DVDs and VHS stores are all the rage, and God, Blockbuster was profitable? Fun fact number 1, this would be the last time they would have a profit for the next decade. Now, something important was happening in the background while Blockbuster was having the best year of their life. Two little companies known as Pure Software and Atria were in the middle of a huge company merge, merging into Pure Atria. Man, what an original name. Anyways, this was huge as it brought together these two men, Reed Hastings and Mark Randolph, who would go on to create Netflix. The duo would frequently carpool together to get to work and eventually became friends. Not best friends, but friends. Cut to 1997, the year that Netflix would be founded. While working for Pure Atria, Reed Hastings, who was a partial owner of the company, found himself in a weird position. Another company called Rational Software was in the middle of acquiring Pure Atria, meaning that the company was being bought out. This buyout would cause Mark and Reed to leave the company. While the deal was being finalized in the background, they found themselves in this weird purgatory state. They had to stay at work because, well, obviously they were scheduled to do so, but they knew in the back of their heads they were going to be out of a job soon, so most of their day-to-day was simply them sitting around killing time. And this is where the foundation for Netflix started to form. The two began talking to each other very frequently about what their next business venture should be. They threw out tons of random ideas, but one that kept coming up was the future of the film industry, specifically changing the way that we watch movies at home. What's more astonishing than these two having the next big idea is the fact that the timing for them to create Netflix was damn near perfect. Not only did they have this great idea, they had something that holds a lot of people back from doing great things: money. Armed with the cash flow from the company buyout, they were able to actually pursue their idea. So what was this $1 million idea? Well, they wanted to somehow create an e-commerce hub where people could rent movies online and receive them at home. Only problem was, movies only came on these things, VHS tapes, which wouldn't be great for shipping across the states. Suddenly, something incredible would happen that would not only change the at-home entertainment industry forever, but also the future of online streaming. DVDs bust on the scene. They're just like VHS tapes, but instead of having to deal with this, now you can deal with this. Fun fact number 2, before going all in on DVDs, Reed and Mark were a bit skeptical of whether or not a DVD could survive the type of shipping that they'd be doing. So before DVDs were widely available, they actually grabbed a regular old CD and just shipped it out and back to their house. And lucky for them, it arrived at their home just fine. And so, in August of 1997, Netflix is... Yeah, I don't know who thought this logo was a good idea. On August 29th of 1997, Netflix is founded. Now, I'm gonna be a nice guy and save you before you make a fool out of yourself in the comments. I'm well aware of the story that CEO Reed Hastings tells. Hastings claims that Netflix was born out of his frustration with late fees, and his story is that after receiving a huge late fee from Blockbuster, he created Netflix out of anger because he wanted a platform with no late fees. But I can promise you, this story does not hold up. You will clearly see if you look at the company's startup year. At first, Netflix was a simple DVD rental service, but not the one that you might be thinking of. In its first few years, you actually had to pay $4 per rental, and each rental was only for 7 days, which meant you weren't escaping those pesky late fees. See, I told you it wouldn't hold up. How could Netflix be born out of frustration for late fees when you're gonna have late fees on it? Makes no sense. But on top of this rental service, Netflix also sold DVDs brand new, which surprisingly made up a majority of the revenue for the first few years. But thanks to the amazing hindsight of Reed Hastings, he took Netflix into the right direction, with one of the craziest and absolute best decisions he could have made. Hastings made the move to cut off all sales of new DVDs in the year 2000. The balls on this man are gargantuan. Imagine approaching your team and straight up telling them that you're cutting off the one thing that makes up almost all of their revenue. Pretty crazy, but this was done because Hastings could see that eventually DVDs would be sold everywhere, which would create unwanted competition. The only thing that would make them stand out is specializing in at-home online rentals. Now we are at the OG Netflix that you might remember. On this version of Netflix, users would go online and select movies that they wanted to watch, and they would put them into an order queue. That's right, kids, we are still a long ways from being able to just click on a movie you want to watch and have it play on your screen. Once you selected these movies, the top 4 in your queue would get shipped directly to your mailbox in this nice little red packaging. For only $20 a month, you'd have this amazing service, and the best part was no late fees. You could keep the movies for seemingly as long as you wanted, albeit while paying the subscription fee, and once you shipped any of the DVDs back, the next movie in your queue would just be delivered to your home without any delay. The only thing that would change for the next 3 years is Netflix lowering the amounts of movies you could bring home from 4 to 3. You'd think with such a great business model and a low price, Netflix would have done amazing in its first 3 years, but it really didn't. In fact, they were actually losing money for the first 3 years, mostly due to the fact that whatever they made, they'd spend on advertisement plus whatever money the owners had. So they were actually going super negative in revenue, and when they finally started to pull back on the ads, the money just wasn't coming in fast enough. This, along with the .com crash, which caused massive speculation on e-commerce, led Reed Hastings to making one of the most infamous and well-known business ventures. Netflix would offer themselves to Blockbuster for a measly $50 million. And after being laughed out of the Blockbuster headquarters, Netflix would go on to hit a milestone mark of 1 million subscribers in 2003. Oh yeah, also these red boxes are starting to pop up everywhere. They're basically Blockbuster but portable and always in front of stores, so you can barely see what fucking movie you're renting. I mean, who the fuck? Eventually 2004 would roll along and Blockbuster was like, boom, Blockbuster Online. Basically Netflix but blue. Blockbuster simply joined the game way too late. I imagine if they made Blockbuster Online a few years prior, Netflix wouldn't have been nearly as successful as it was, but because Blockbuster joined in the online rental scene so late, there was too many people that already had Netflix, and with millions of users spreading how good Netflix was through word of mouth, it's no wonder nobody wanted to get Blockbuster Online because everyone you knew had Netflix. If you did have Blockbuster Online, can you actually comment below? Because I'm really curious as to what that was like. Not only was Netflix dominating the space already, but Redbox was absolutely decimating in-person rentals. Both of these happening at the same time would pave the way for Netflix to take over. Contrary to what you may have been led to believe, Amazon technically started the first online streaming service. I didn't actually know this service was even a thing before making this video, but apparently there was this thing called Amazon Unbox, but my god was it terrible. For one, there was no subscription. It was a pay per movie type of deal. Meaning if you wanted to watch, let's say, Spider-Man 3, you'd have to fork over $5 for the movie, only for you to have the worst buffering imaginable, as online streaming just wasn't there yet. One major plus about Amazon Unbox was that you did get to keep the movie for the $5, but you couldn't watch the movie anywhere else besides the computer that you bought it on. They did, however, allow you to burn DVDs of the movies you bought, which you'd think would be awesome because you might be able to burn your favorite movie, bring it over to your friend's house and watch it on his PS2 or his DVD player or whatever he had, right? No! Even in this situation, when you burned the DVD from Amazon Unbox, you could still only watch it from your computer. Somehow the DVD with the burned movie on it would be able to tell if you weren't playing the movie on the authorized computer, so it would just not let you watch it. I mean, like, why the hell would you even make it an option if I can't pop it in my own DVD player? It makes no sense and I'm getting frustrated, so let's just move on. Because of the many flaws that this service had, it was not well received at all, but it did spark something special. The following year, in 2007, Netflix announced it would launch video streaming. Good video streaming. It was unheard of. Being able to just see a movie poster, click on it, and begin watching it. You just couldn't do that at that time. At least, not as easy as Netflix made it. NBC, Universal, and Fox saw the success that Netflix had and were like, damn, shawty. And boom, Hulu was announced that same year, which is basically just Netflix but for TV shows. And that's also something I wanted to touch on. When Netflix started, it was primarily for movies, not TV shows or anything of the sort. I remember back in the day, having Netflix and Hulu made you the coolest kid on the block. Being able to watch literally anything at any time, wherever you want. Are you fucking kidding me? Now, not much happened for the next 5 years. 2011 came and went, and Netflix slowly rolled out their online streaming service to all these countries, which made it into the global sensation that we know today. In 2013, we got something called a Netflix original, which was basically Netflix's way of saying, please buy our streaming service. We got this in the form of House of Cards, which would spawn an entirely new way of watching TV shows. Instead of having to wait days, weeks, or god, even months for a new episode of your favorite show, you could just watch all of it in one sitting. It was freaking awesome, but something that would scare the internet was just around the corner. 2014. 2014 was and still remains one of the scariest years for the internet, and it's because of net neutrality. Ever wonder how you can just go on your computer and type in literally anything and freely explore the internet? That's because of net neutrality. In 2014, all these cable companies were pissed because who the hell needed cable anymore? You got Netflix, you got Hulu, what more could you ask for? In one of the pettiest moves ever, they proposed the idea of blocking certain websites when paying for your internet service. For example, let's say you have Frontier and you buy their lowest package. Good luck watching Netflix, Hulu, or YouTube without paying an extra fee for each website. Don't want to pay the fee for the add-on? Well, you won't be able to watch Netflix, Hulu, or YouTube as they're going to be blocked from your internet provider. And what was truly messed up about this was even if you were to pay for any add-on like that, you would still have to pay for that subscription service. So if you paid for the Netflix add-on, you'd still have to pay for Netflix, making the total price basically match having cable in the first place, which is exactly what online streaming sought to fight against. That's where we were heading in 2014, and thank God it never happened. Big companies like Netflix rightfully spoke out against this, and just as fast as the fire started, it was burned out. And that was basically the last huge thing that would happen for a while. In fact, I think anyone that knew what was good for them would call this entire decade from 2008 to 2018 the golden era of streaming, because it truly was. You didn't need anything else besides Netflix. So many TV shows, Netflix originals, and movies, all from different types of companies, Disney, HBO, Fox, Universal, all on one central hub, and for max $20 a month? The only other competitors during this time were Prime Video, Shudder, Funimation, and Crunchyroll. And 3 of those were hard niches, which just left Prime Video as the main competitor, and even then, Prime wouldn't see a good catalog of content for at least a few years. Unfortunately, the golden era did have to come to an end. In late 2018, Disney pulled the Uno reverse card on the entire industry and basically told Netflix, we're not renewing our contract. So Disney announced that it would not be renewing its contract with Netflix, which meant we could say goodbye to all those Disney classics that you could watch on Netflix, and say hello to every fucking company making their own subscription service. What the? 2019 saw the debut of Disney Plus, which was Netflix but for Disney movies, originals, and TV series. For just $6.99, you could have access to all your favorite Disney classics. Since Disney made the switch from Netflix to their own platform, a lot of other companies saw this as an opportunity to do the same. 2020 saw HBO Max and Peacock debut, with HBO Max taking Friends from Netflix and Peacock taking The Office with it, leaving those who had Netflix for those shows to abandon it in favor of yet another subscription service. And finally, the most recent addition to the streaming game was Paramount Plus, with its main draw being old Nickelodeon shows and the iCarly reboot. Now we find ourselves in uncharted waters. We have all these streaming services that, when added up, it basically looks like you're paying for cable, but now you have the ability to watch whatever you want. Even though that's amazing, I gotta admit, making this video and explaining the entire history of online streaming made me miss the old days. I remember waking up on a Monday excited to watch the new episode of Heroes right before season 3 came and ruined it, Gone are the days of staying up late just to watch the new Jimmy Timmy Power Hour, and here are the days of binging shows till 6 a.m. The new generation just won't get to experience TV and family time the same way that my generation and the generations prior did. But hey, at least I can watch The Office for the 50th time in a row.